Only one.
Anyway, let's turn it on. Hey, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hey! How's it going? Yes. Welcome. I'm so sorry. Take care.
Hi guys, my name is Cash Connors from 105.3 Virgin Radio. Welcome to Tri-City Comic Con. We just met.
Yeah, we just met.
Already forgot your name.
So it's okay. I'm Ward Anderson, formerly of Sirius XM and now currently of Cityline Television. Are you guys having a great time? Welcome to Tri-City. Having a great time for what? So we're going to do a little tag team. We're going to have the guys come out and handle this panel a little bit. We're going to give you guys a chance to ask questions as well. So why don't I introduce them one by one. He is the founder of Chapterhouse Comics. Please welcome Fatty Hakeem. And of course, the star of stage and screen and a wonderful director. Please welcome Jay Baruchel. All right, and so the way we decided we'll do this is we'll just kind of tag back and forth, and we'll also take the mic out into the audience so you guys can ask any questions you want. But we'll start it off. Fatty, tell us a little bit about yourself for those that don't know all about you already.
I founded Chapterhouse, pretty much known for Captain Canuck. So I had a...
Yeah.
I kind of fell into it sort of by accident. I own a restaurant called the Lakeview Restaurant in Toronto.
Yeah.
Word's been there many times.
Yeah.
And basically called the Penal Bacon Sandwich with Captain Canuck. And then what ended up happening was we put Captain Canuck on a kids menu, and then I got in contact with Richard to license it, and then kind of that was it. The rest was sort of history. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we started to just bring a lot more people on board, signing up a lot better, like great acts. And we're doing a thing called the Chapterverse now, which is basically Captain Canuck, and it's sort of pretty much our own Avengers called Equilibrium. And so we have 8 other titles like freelance and a lot of legacy characters from Canada's past, put them into a superhero shared universe, and that's that.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about recently when this convention was being put together and talking to you about Captain Canuck was, I'm an immigrant to Canada and I'm Canadian now, but I said Captain Canuck was that character that I latched onto when I immigrated here, right? And have since become a huge fan of, and I have the artwork all over in my house and everything like that. And this isn't blowing smoke at all, but it is hard to have a Canadian star system. People talk about we don't have a Canadian star system. But it's kind of appropriate because right now, probably one of the most recognizable Canadian faces is you, Jay. But I really do believe that. I mean, especially now you're becoming more and more so, you know, directing the Goon sequel recently. You guys see the Goon sequel? Yeah. And plus you're appearing in gas station commercials now all across Canada. So, I mean, you are becoming more and more visible as, you know, Canada's own, as a Canadian actor, and unabashedly so. So it makes sense that you would team up with these guys, but how did that actually happen? How did you wind up with the Captain Canuck guys and Chapterhouse?
Super simple. Thanks for the kind words, by the way. No, I met Fatty because he was interested in turning Captain Canuck into a movie and or a TV show, and so it was just a meeting for like a potential writing gig, and I saw what he and Chapterhouse had kind of built in the short time that they existed, and you know, Captain Canuck is a character that was always around, but my whole life in the periphery because he was typically relegated to the sort of back of the comic book shops I go to as a kid, and yet he was always there. And it's a testament to, you know, it's a testament to that character and what it means to this country that he's still around, because there have been like 3 or 4 iterations, you know, the sort of first one in the 70s, and then again in the 90s, and then again with Chapterhouse, and it's this, he doesn't want to go away. And when I saw everything that Chapterhouse had been up to, I had this like kind of manic weekend where I met Fatty on the Friday about maybe writing a movie, and then on the Monday I called him and was like, hey, can I I know you just thought maybe I could write a movie for you. I was like, can I invest in the company, because I really, really believe in what you're doing, and I like, in Canuck, I saw a character that I wanted to spend the rest of my life working with in some capacity, and Chapterhouse and Fatty and Canuck's patriotism very much dovetails with my own, you know, and I was always sort of raised to believe that I grew up in the best country in the world, and we deserve our own heroes. And so it was like, yeah, a very, very quick, easy thing for me to jump into, because it was like everything I wanted to do in movies, they were doing in comics.
Now, you've been the chief creative officer for how many years now?
It's about 2 years.
2 years. Okay, so you're acting, you're directing, you're writing, you're doing voice work. As far as your role for the chief creative officer of Chapterhouse goes, like what exactly are you doing to put your own take on things?
I'm sort of, you know, finding a way to write the comics that I would want to read. You know, it's like, it's all fine for us to have ambitions for a comic to turn into another medium, but ultimately the books have to be amazing, and the books are the thing. Anything that happens afterwards is gravy. And so it's about, you know, and I've read comics all my life, and I've read good ones and bad ones, and so I know that, like, I know what we're up against, and I know what our competitors are doing, and so it's about making sure that we have awesome characters and awesome action and really, really cool artwork, and making sure that there's a kind of a cohesion to the whole thing, and that everything exists in the same universe without your enjoyment hinging on having read all of it, right? You know, being able to enjoy one book, and if you like it, you'll pick up another one of our characters, and it's all in the same universe, but you don't need to read one to enjoy the other. And then the rest of my time, my job at Chapterhouse is like literally just writing Captain Canuck stories, which is like the most fun in the world.
Where do you get inspiration from?
I'd say from all manner of places, from movies I love, from books I love, from comics that I adore, and also from living in this country and knowing that there's a need to be met, that there's a lot of kids in this country that, you know, it would be kind of cool and inspirational for them and inspiring for them to, you know, open a comic book and to see their own cities and to see heroes that look and sound like they do.
All of us here, I think, are pretty much around the same age, of the same generation, pretty close. And we are probably, I think, that first real generation where comic books stopped being seen as a geek thing or a nerd thing. I mean, now we wear the term geek or nerd, you know, as like a badge of honor or something like that, and it means everybody, right? But I think that we're that first generation where you meet everybody from, you know, I mean, everyone from gorgeous women to mathematicians to bodybuilders who are into comic books and comic book characters, right?
It didn't used to be like that.
Right, it didn't used to be like that, but there is no stereotype anymore of it, right?
No.
And so I think in that respect, you know, hearing that you got involved with Chapterhouse and you got involved with Chapterhouse, like that's no surprise to me. But do people often find it surprising from you in the fact that your background has in a lot of ways been in comedy, you know, that you're writing action now, you know?
Sometimes, but I think it's like, it's not that far-fetched for people to believe that I love writing superhero stuff. Like it's when I tell people that I'm a real comic book nerd, it's not like mind-blowing to them. And so it's still my favorite stuff, you know, and you know, it's real fun to make people laugh, but it's not like what I think about. But I do often think about what would be like a neat vehicle or a cool superpower or what's something awesome that we could blow up, you know. Like I do. So to me, it's a natural extension of it. But I think it's spot on. Of like, there was something, you know, comics in our generation. Comics reached a certain. There was like a critical mass point, and for, you know, where we were able to hit our kind of Citizen Kane pinnacles in The Watchmen and V for Vendetta and all this stuff, and this is where it goes from being just like goofy stuff for kids to honest to God literature and a fundamental part of modern sort of Western culture. So, but I was raised without any shame about liking superheroes. Like I'm very, very proud of the day that my dad sat me down and explained to me who his favorites were and why they were. But I'm gonna have to find my own heroes, all that stuff.
Yeah. So, due to this is something for you as well. You as a publisher, maybe you as a writer or even performer. Okay, so due to a content law screw up, easiest way for me to put it, due to a copyright screw up, James Bond is in the public domain in Canada only, and only in print.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys knew that.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, because of a licensing screw up within Canada. James Bond is open for people to write. It's got to be in print in Canada and only to be sold in Canada.
Yeah.
So there is actually a James Bond collection of short stories by Canadian authors that came out a couple of years ago. And by the way, James Bond has to have his adventure in Canada.
Oh, weird.
As part of it.
I get the feeling that James Bond's going to be Captain Canuck.
There it is. So, okay, would James Bond could there be a James Bond tie-in with, say, a Captain Canuck or whatever? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
We all know the answer to that question.
Okay. And if you were a Canadian spy like James Bond in the movies, Jay, what would your character's name be, and what would his secret powers be?
Oh gosh.
007.
That would be like Clark or Gordon or something. Yeah, let's go Clark. let's,
I'm sorry about that.
yeah, okay, that's it. I'm sorry about that. Clark McTavish. There you go. That'd be.
But what do you think about taking on a character like that in Chapterhouse? If you guys could, if you could do a special issue of just James Bond, let's say, or, are there any characters out there that Chapterhouse would like to take on if they could? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were just talking about Sharknado versus Jaws, like in the other room. Like it would be kind of fun to kind of do stuff like that. And absolutely, yeah, we'll definitely start to explore that sort of thing. But yeah, James Bond. So can you sell James Bond in the States?
No, it's got to be
You can
sold
just
in
it's only. Yeah, sure. I like James Bond.
Yeah, it'd be worth thinking about.
Yeah, sure. And then have everybody buy it. From like internationally, obviously, like it could become a collector's edition.
Are there any characters out there that you've thought about adapting? Because a lot of times this happens. You have crossovers in comics especially. Even DC crosses over into Marvel every once in a while. Has there ever been a character out there that you've been like this close to taking, or you've thought about it, or you've sought out?
Yeah, there's a few we just can't talk about them, unfortunately. But yeah, it's like awesome. Like we were talking about, hey, how cool it would be to do a Degrassi Junior High thing, and we were actually talking to Pat about it. So there's always a lot of stuff, and then whatever comes to fruition, that's another thing. But yeah, absolutely, we want to do everything under the sun as far as publishing. A wide variety of things are concerned, for sure. Like we're talking about. A movie that Jay's doing. We're talking about possibly doing a comic book for that, and an adaptation. And so there's a lot of fun stuff that we could do with publishing. And so far, we've been doing it, which is great.
How hard was it? Because I have noticed that Chapterhouse has a good arm in the United States. You are appearing in bookstores and comic book stores in the United States. How difficult has it been to break into that market, or has it been more or less receptive than you thought it would be?
It's actually, we do very well down there, I think more than any of us expected. And I don't know if that's given how many Canadians live in the States or any myriad reasons, but we actually do very well down there, so often better than we do up here.
It's very strange. Yeah, I think there are a lot of expats there, I think, so it actually outsells Canada just a little.
Just a little trivia for you guys. You know what the third most populated Canadian city is?
LA.
Los Angeles.
Really? There you go.
I'm curious as to your introduction into comics. I know the first comic that I know the first comic that I ever bought, and that was like really super basic stuff, but get into the death of Superman. But that's what got me hooked. That entire storyline. I'm curious for both of you, Fatty and Jay. What was the first comic you ever bought, and then what was the first series that kind of got you hooked?
Well, so I remember my dad went out and bought me the trade paperback of Death of Superman when I was like 8 or whatever, and I read it all in one sitting. And yeah, that was a pretty profoundly important part of my childhood. What I went out and saw on my own, and to this day is still my favorite, is The Punisher. That was always like when I would go to the comic shops, that's always what I would grab. And then I'd say it was also kind of the Secret Wars saga. I made it a mission. I gave myself a mission when I was a kid to like get, I think it was 12. I think get all of them wherever I could find them. And so like every garage sale, every comic shop I went to, and I got bloody close. I got like 10 of them or something like that. But yeah, Punisher and Superman are big ones for me.
Sure.
I was, Captain Canuck was the first comic book I bought with my own money. I forgot to mention that. That's why I kind of like held the torch for him my entire life. So, yeah, it was Captain Canuck. It was really X-Men. That was what I was going for. But then #1, the first issue by Richard was like sitting there, and I was like, wow, look at that flag character. This looks incredible. And that was it. Yeah, so I've always been a big fan of Captain Canuck. Although it was really hard to find the comic books, like going back there, and we didn't have enough money to join the Captain Canuck Club as well. So that kind of sucked. It was always about the mail-outs and stuff like that, and I just never got around to it. Anyhow, but yeah, I do like, it's all really about Captain Canuck, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan as well.
Now, you mentioned the Punisher, Frank Castle. I'm pretty sure in a previous interview you said that if there was any character that you could play, it would be Frank Castle.
But with a very important caveat that I'm the last person in the world that should have that my love of Frank Castle precludes me from pursuing that.
Things have kind of come full circle, though, because apparently you are going to be writing a series for the Punisher.
Just a one-off little thing, actually. Marvel is doing this kind of, for Halloween this year, Marvel's doing a sort of Avengers Halloween special, which is kind of like modeled after like Tales from the Crypt or Twilight Zone, so it's like anthology of kind of horror stories. And so I was very flattered and honored I got asked to write the Punisher one. And so it's like a kind of an Elseworldsy type thing, so it's basically Phantom of the Opera but with Punisher. And I just saw a rough version of it a few days ago, and it's pretty spectacular. Don't do that to me right now. We'll come back to that.
When does it come out?
Right around Halloween, I think. Right around Halloween.
27th.
I feel like you playing the Punisher would be kind of like an Ernest Goes Postal kind of thing.
Yes, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Okay, so
Either
let's,
way, it'd be god awful.
Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
let's shoot for the moon here. It doesn't have to be realistic. Let's just talk about dreams. Okay, we make a Captain Canuck movie. Who do we cast?
For me, for my money, it's got to be Jared Keeso from Letterkenny. I think it's like hold your hand over the top of his head, and tell me that that's not supposed to be the jaw right there. And he's a bona fide sort of patriot, and so he's always in my mind who it should be. That was always a pretty obvious one for me.
Mine was always Keanu Reeves, but now that was a long time ago. I got to read up.
Speaking of Letterkenny, you just guessed it this past season, a couple of episodes, Hard Right Jay. How did that come about?
Well, I'm friends with a bunch of people on that thing. The guy that directs every episode is my friend Jacob Tierney, who we've known each other since I was like 5 and he was 8. and he directed 2 movies that I was in, and he directs every episode, and so that was something of an in, as well as Nathan Dales, who plays Derry on the show, was in Goon 2, and I've known K. Trevor Wilson, who plays Swirly Dan, since I was about 16.
Really?
Yeah, so, yeah, 'cause we were in a Pillsbury Pizza Pops commercial. And so I had like, and I just adore the show, and like I never missed an opportunity to tell all of them like, I like the show. Hint, invite me to be on it, please. You know, and eventually it worked, and they brought me up there to Sudbury, and yeah, it was. Another big is going to blow everyone's mind. It was very cold. It was so that was dreadful. But it was a blast getting to see how they do their thing, and it's a very, very specific show. So the way that they go about making it is equally specific. But it was a blast because it's been like for years I've been saying it's the best TV show that I'm not on. That was back when I was on a TV show. But now I'm on it, so it's just the best TV show.
And only because he's a really good friend of mine, I'm going to say I want K. Trevor Wilson to play Captain Canuck. I've decided.
I'd like to see what that looks like.
Just to have him go,
Yes.
I'm here to fight crime! You guys, how many people watch Letterkenny? You guys watch Letterkenny? Why don't we open it up and pass the mic and see what people have to say? You have more questions? We'll come back to them.
Oh, we can come back to it later.
Is that cool? Is that good? I can do it.
Yeah,
You want a minute or whatever? Who has questions for the gang? What do you guys think? Over here, sir.
Hey, I know there might be some copyright issues when it comes to the name of the comic, but Goon as a comic?
Yes, but yeah, many a conversation has been had. There are a whole bunch of Highlander stories that haven't seen the light of day.
Awesome.
And so it's something we've talked a great deal about, and yeah, so I agree with you. I think it lends itself to it in a big way.
I mean, it is action. You
Yes.
talk about comedy, but that is action.
Exactly right, and I tried to make Goon 2 feel like a superhero flick, so I think you're right.
How's their opening night?
Is there is there a future of Goon on the big screen for you?
I would make those movies for the rest of my life. I'll make them as long as people want to see them. So, like I said, there's a whole bunch of other Highlander stories left to tell. What medium they get told in, we'll see.
Anybody else questions?
What was your favorite part of the drunk, happy, fun time hour?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Just getting to work with the Trailer Park Boys, you know, and then also getting to fire a Tommy gun was pretty sweet.
That brings me to my second part. Is there room for the Trailer Park Boys at Chapterhouse?
Always, there's room for the Trailer Park Boys everywhere. Yeah, yeah, especially because I'm not gonna. Yes, I would be the coolest.
This is 50-50 serious joke kind of question.
Okay, I'll try to give an equal answer.
What's your impression on Jonah Hill?
Yeah.
And do you do impressions?
Exactly what you suspect it is. I would assume. Yeah.
Anybody else? What do we have? From the gentleman in the front.
What would you say was your favorite movie to be in?
Probably the second Goon movie is, technically I'm in it, but I got to direct it and I loved it and I wanted to do that since I was a little kid, so probably that one.
Is that something that you want to do more of, is getting behind the camera?
Yeah.
And maybe even writing, or like, where do you see, because you have your hand in a bunch of different pots.
Yeah, thanks. It's all I've wanted to do. I've wanted to be a director since I was 9 years old, and I started acting when I was 12. So even when I started acting at 12, my mom said, you want to be a director, this is the best way for you to learn. And I just finished directing my second feature a month ago. It's a thing called Random Acts of Violence, which is a horror flick. It's an adaptation of a graphic novel by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray, and yeah, I'm incredibly proud of it. So yeah, I would love to direct for the rest of my life.
Right here.
I just think it's great that you're trying to bring Captain Canuck more mainstream. That's really awesome. Do you guys have any plans to do like a cartoon or like YTV or Teletoon?
Yeah, I don't know how much we're allowed to mention, but yes, agreed. Yes, we do. We have very, very serious plans as well.
Great.
Jay, I thought you were just great in $1 Million Baby. It was super. Who's your favorite actor and who do you model yourself after?
Oh, sheesh. Model myself after, I don't know if there's anybody, but my favorites would be like, if anyone's ever found me funny, it's purely because of Mr. Bean. That's like, that's my inspiration. It's still it for me. And then probably when Val Kilmer played Doc Holliday in Tombstone was my favorite performance. So, not that there's any connection to be seen at all, but I just like, yeah, that'd be my favorite. That'd be probably my favorite performance.
I think a lot of people here just want to know that Captain Canuck is going to make his way to the screen, small or large, sometime soon. Can you tell us that much?
Yeah, it's there. It's like, it's a process, but, you know, yeah, we're there. We're kind of right in the midst of it.
Like, you know, it's more than just conversations. It's
Yeah.
where work is being done in earnest, and he will appear. You know, what screen? Slightly up in the air at the moment right now, but he's coming.
And what are we talking? Live action, animated?
Probably both.
A little bit of both
Yeah.
in the same thing?
Well, not in the same thing. but
Or
I think
two different projects?
That's exactly
Right.
it. Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. That's it.
Questions? Okay, so we all, we've been talking about Captain Canuck and we love him. Okay, but Chapterhouse has many different properties. What other properties, what would be, besides Captain Canuck, what would be the next thing on your list? What's the other project that you're putting out there for the world to see that you're really excited about? I mean, obviously you're excited about all of them, but what's a big one that we should be keeping our eyes out for?
Yeah,
There are lots. Geez, Captain Canuck. Captain Canuck is sort of he's the center of the Chapterverse, and so that is basically the ultimate title, and then everything sort of surrounds that. But there are many. Agents of Pact is a great title to kind of follow because that's sort of the space opera one. There's Freelance, that's kind of the high-flying Doc Savage action. Northgard, which is a little grittier. He's going back to Montreal, I think. And not to mention, of course, because Chapterhouse also does other books, like creator-owned stuff. So right now we're releasing Volume 3 of Die Kitty Die. That's by Dan Parent and Fernando Ruiz. They're famous for the Archie comics and Harvey comics, working on them. And as well, Dan Fogler, it's Jay's buddy, that he was in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And he's just on The Walking Dead as well right now for season 9. But he put out a book called Brooklyn Gladiator, and that was a volume 0 that we've got at the booth actually right now. And there's a Moon Lake omnibus coming up at the end of the year, just in time for Christmas, which is great. And these are the amazing stories that he kind of tells. And that's December 10th.
And it should be said, there is a Chapterhouse corner right here in the convention where you can get almost all of these books, including tons of Captain Canuck and others, right?
Yep, and all sorts of other kind of bits and bobs.
So the two big players of the game, Marvel and DC, they have, in recent years, they've gone digital. They have apps and subscriptions and whatnot. Is this something that, possibly is in the future for Chapterhouse, or, do you consider yourselves more of people who enjoy hard copies, or like, would you like to go down the digital route?
I think both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We are doing digital. We do a lot of digital already through Comixology. Like, we don't have our own app, just yet, but I think that that's a little ways down the line. It's sort of what's in priority sequence, for the most part when it comes to making those strategic decisions. But absolutely, digitally, we do really well on Comixology.
It's a
It's
cheaper
great.
way for people to enjoy it.
For sure.
What do you prefer though? The hard copy having that?
I'm a hard copy guy. I'm absolutely that. Yeah, and another thing we're doing too is we're doing all trades as well. Like our trades that's basically what we're concentrating on, so that you can kind of hit bookstores plus comic book stores. Because a lot of it has changed. A lot of people don't go to comic book stores anymore, so a lot of people actually get their comics from bookstores.
And people like reading trades better than they like reading single issues.
I personally.
Yeah.
These days.
I just have a quick question. It has nothing to do with comics, but here we are. We're in KW this weekend. Hometown hockey is here. I know you're a big hockey fan, Jay. A big Montreal Canadiens fan. We're in enemy territory here. I'm from Ottawa. I'm a big Sens fan, and it's going to suck for the next 10 years. What do you
I'm
think?
from Atlanta, so I'm a big Flames fan.
Bring it all the way back. So what do you think about the off-season moves that the Leafs made? And trust me, I'm with you, because the Sens and Leafs, huge rivalry. Habs and Leafs, huge rivalry. But what do you think the chances are the Leafs bring a cup home? And which Canadian team do you think will be next?
Answer your first question, what do I think of the off-season trade moves and stuff? They've all been completely lateral. They already had very good offense last year. They added to something they didn't need to add to. They didn't address any of their weaknesses, namely defense. And so they're still a gaping hole by the back of the Air Canada Center, or whatever it's called now. And so then your follow-up question, do I think they are bringing the cup home? Absolutely not. I think there will be an inevitable collapse because they're the Leafs. That's what they do. And I have front row seats for it. And who I think will be the next Canadian team to do it? Well, it won't be anytime soon, but it's definitely going to be the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay, so just one last question. I want to put it out there. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up with these guys? Yeah, go for it.
So you had mentioned Punisher as your dream, but you would never want to actually physically play him.
Yeah, no.
Is there any other character that you think superhero character you would be a good fit for that you'd like to play?
Oh, gosh.
I think Peter Parker personally, but...
Well, thank you.
I think Scarlet Spider.
And funny you mentioned that, because they're very, very close to, there was almost a version of things where that was a thing, yeah. But I was within spitting distance of it. No, man, that's very nice of you to say. I always thought I looked kind of like Robin, but I think every skinny brown-haired kid thinks they look like Robin.
So, okay, what you mentioned random acts of violence. You've got this horror movie you directed coming out. Okay, what else is coming up for you? I mean, we know of the Punisher series, or the one-off that you've done that comes out in October. Random acts of violence. When does that come out?
Oh, well, I got to finish editing it, so probably around this time next year, I think.
What else you got going on?
End of
This month, I wrote a book, and it comes out on HarperCollins, and it's called Born Into It, A Fan's Life, and it's like sort of memoirs and opinions and social commentary all around being kind of an embarrassingly religious Habs fan. I tried my best to write in a book form the experience of what it is to be a fan, and I think that you can substitute Habs for any team, or you could substitute hockey for music or comics or whatever. But the point is fandom is a real interesting kind of funny thing because it's a strange phenomenon to be so deeply emotionally connected to and affected by things over which you have zero control. Zero control. I take it all personally as well, and but it's one-sided. So if I get real mad at the Habs because they trade PK Subban, and I will all right, I'm going to protest not watch for a year. It makes no difference. I can hit him where it hurts and vote with my wallet. It makes no difference because they're one of the richest sports teams in the world, so they don't need me to love them. But they do, because, and this is this funny, strange, weird relationship we have, and so I tried to cram all of that into a book, and so that comes out end of this month, and then I go across the country, kind of touring it and promoting it, and then finish editing the movie, and then and then I get married next year. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Is it to Jonah Hill?
It absolutely isn't.
I just wanted to get back to Captain Canuck, and I want to know if either of you has ever played the fantasy game where, because of power sets and whatnot, have you ever thought who would win in a fight between Captain Canuck and or say Captain America or Superman, or do you play those battles out in your head?
Constantly.
Yeah.
He was for those of you in the back that didn't hear it, he was asking who would win in a fight, Captain Canuck versus Captain America, and these kinds of team-ups.
Yes, I constantly. I do these matchups in my head constantly. I do them within our shared universe as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to Captain Canuck and Captain America, well, one of them is imbued with a great deal of alien DNA, which kind of gives him something of a leg up over super soldier serum. But in addition to that, one of them's from the country that created hockey fighting. So there's
Oh yeah.
you just hold them and just feed them for however long you can take it.
Everybody, Fatty Hakeem and Jay Pearsall. And make sure you go to the Chapterhouse booth right there and pick up all the copies that you can.
Thank you, everyone.
Stick around for the Degrassi panel.
I'll be at the booth. I'll be set for 2 hours.
Thank you.